I mean, I just want that mwananchi who is asking, why is the cost of living still high, to understand why it is still high. From your perspective, how do you address this agenda? What would have caused the derailing of this process? This promise that was supposed to be delivered as soon as possible is yet to be realized. Eric says it's progressive. It's something that cannot happen just in a day. What would be your thoughts on that?
One, I think it's granted that when the president took office, the economy was a bit in a problem. I mean, we were in a slowdown. The global environment also largely contributed to the economic challenges that we were facing. Mm-hmm. So that is the factual position, and you expect that any change to the economy would be also impacted by that global environment and the fact that the economy was struggling at that particular time. So the question that we want to look at are the interventions, and then how effective are those interventions, mm-hmm. and have we seen a level of implementation of those interventions, although we know it is long-term, that gives us confidence that we are on the right path. Yeah. And I think that is where we're having a problem. So, and one of the examples I was giving was like the Hustler Fund. Of course, it has its own merits and demerits, but I'm basically looking at interventions and how those interventions then give us confidence that we are on the right track. So we go and look at what interventions have been done. There were interventions that were done by the government to allow for importation of edible oil. Do we have a manufacturing industry for edible oil in the country? Yes. Wouldn't it have been more economically, making sense, more economic, to give incentives to the local manufacturers so that they can be able to manufacture that oil at a cost that then would be, mm-hmm. That would bring down the cost of that edible oil, as opposed to getting a foreign trader to import products from another country, thereby affecting our local industry in terms of their economic, in terms of, one, their ability to even keep the jobs. So you ask yourself, by importing, you are hurting local manufacturers, you are hurting the ability of the government to collect revenue from the local manufacturers, and most importantly, you are making people lose jobs in a very difficult time. So that's, again, the question that I'm asking. In terms of implementation, are you seeing consistency in terms of what the government intends to achieve? It leaves you feeling a little bit shaky. You move to the next other intervention that was done to allow for importation of fertilizer. A very good intervention. But the farmers are telling you that this fertilizer has been brought in, but we have not been able to access it, and to access it at a price that is reasonable and fair. In fact, what has been happening is that the farmers who are actually engaged in large-scale production have found it extremely difficult to access, because you're being told, you have a limit, 10 bags of fertilizer, 20 bags of fertilizer, and if you're doing large-scale, then you cannot be able to purchase.
But when President William Ruto was coming into power, if I remember my numbers correctly, the price of fertilizer was going as high as 6,000, 7,000, thereabout. Now it's about 2,000.
That's.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not disputing the issue of the prices.
But it is because of the interventions.
No. You see, you have to look at it in this way, that the first intervention that was done on that aspect was to boost food production. So you bring in measures, you bring in short-term measures of saying, okay, let's import. but the product does not get to those that it is intended to benefit. So there are so many other factors. It is not just the importation that has reduced the prices. There are so many other factors that have contributed. Perhaps there were so many inefficiencies in the system that have now been cleared. But the question that I'm addressing here is one of how are you messaging? How faithful is the implementation? So some of the measures that have been implemented have actually been extremely successful. Some of them have actually sort of been a little bit disastrous. And I think that is where we are saying there's an element of confusion, a little bit of confusion in terms of getting comfort. And that's the bottom line that I'm talking about. Getting comfort that the government is actually on the right track towards resolving the economic challenges that we were facing. So, and you see, the assessment that we are now giving the president is one where everyone is agreeing that at a C, you know, there are certain things that they could have done right, which they haven't done. And so at a C, people begin to say that this is almost fairly reasonable.
Especially considering that he has 4 years.
Yes, and you see, one of the things that is extremely important is to appreciate the work that has been done, but to also point a finger, specifically to point a finger on the things that would have been done well and were not done well, but also, most importantly, to say that if a certain trend continues, then that trend is dangerous for the country. And for me, where I come from, the position that the government is taking and continues to take on matters on rule of law and the administration of justice is one that then continues to send a conflicting message as to where the government wants to take this country.
I want to allow you, Kinaga, to also weigh in. Let's give it to him where he has